Chapter 21 of Going His Way, Little Talks to Little Folks by Rev. Gerald T. Brennan. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Maria Therese. Chapter 21 The Two Brothers. This morning I'm going to tell you one of my favorite stories. It's a story about two brothers who lived in the state of Ohio. The older brother was Frank. He was 20. The younger brother was Eddie. He was 18. Frank and Eddie were always together. They were real brothers, real friends. One day Frank and Eddie decided to join the army. They wanted to be soldiers. They wanted to fight for their country. Well, that's just what they did. Frank and Eddie joined the army. They became soldiers. When the brothers left home, they both promised their mother that they would try to keep together, and each brother promised that he would look after the other. Well, everything went fine. Frank and Eddie were sent to the same camp. They were in the same company. They trained together. They marched together. They worked together. They ate together. They slept in the same tent. So far, the two brothers had kept the promises that they had made to their mother. After months of training, Frank and Eddie were sent across the sea, and, sure enough, Frank and Eddie crossed the ocean in the same ship. The brothers were still together, still keeping the promises that they had made to their mother. One night when the brothers were in a far-off land, an order was given that, the next day, the soldiers would go into battle. So, early the next morning, the soldiers were on their way. About 10 o'clock they met the enemy. Oh, it was a hard battle, a bloody battle. For 6 hours both sides fought hard, but our men were too strong for the enemy. 6 hours of terrible fighting, but the Stars and Stripes came out on top. Now, what about Frank and Eddie? Well, when the battle was over, Eddie was missing. Something seemed to strike Frank right in the heart. He shook from head to foot. Where was Eddie? Where was Eddie? Something had to be done. He had to find Eddie. Frank helped his companions to take care of the wounded. He went from one wounded soldier to the other, but there was no Eddie. He called out Eddie's name, but there was no answer. But Frank didn't give up. He knew that Eddie was somewhere, and he was bound to find him. Frank searched for an hour, and finally he found a soldier who was covered with blood. The soldier was Eddie. Eddie had been wounded, and he was about to die. Just before he breathed his last, Eddie looked up at his faithful brother and smiled. "Frank," he said, "you didn't disappoint me. I knew you'd come." You didn't disappoint me. I knew you'd come. A little boy finds it hard to learn arithmetic. He studies at home and works hard in school, but somehow he just can't get arithmetic. The examinations are coming, and he doesn't want to fail. That boy knows someone who will help him. So what does he do? Every night after school that little boy goes over to church. He kneels down in front of the altar, tells Jesus that arithmetic is hard for him, and begs Jesus to help him. And what does Jesus say to that little boy? "You didn't disappoint me. I knew you'd come." Sunday after Sunday you come to Mass. Yes, and many of you children come to Mass during the week. It's hard to get up in the morning, but you get up and come anyway. You come because you know that the Mass is the best prayer. You know that the Mass will bring you lots of grace. At the middle of the Mass, a bell rings. The priest raises Jesus high up over your heads. You look up at Jesus, and Jesus speaks to you. What does Jesus say? "You didn't disappoint me. I knew you'd come." Someone is sick at home. Perhaps your father and mother are worried about something. Perhaps you want something for yourself. You need help. You need the help of a friend, the help of a real friend like Jesus. What do? You receive Jesus in Holy Communion. Then, before you even ask for anything, how does Jesus show you that He is your friend? Why, His very first words fill you with hope. "You didn't disappoint me. I knew you'd come." If I were an artist, and if I were asked to paint the world's greatest picture, what do you think my picture would be? Would it be a picture of a child receiving his first Holy Communion? No, it would not. Would it be a picture of a priest saying his first Mass? No, that wouldn't be my picture. Would it be the picture of a smiling baby or a beautiful rose? No, my picture would be none of these. If I were an artist, and if I were asked to paint the world's greatest picture, I'd paint a picture of a little child kneeling alone in a great church, a little child whose eyes looked up at the altar, a child talking to God. It would be the picture of a child who had visited with Jesus often, a child who had often heard Jesus say, "You didn't disappoint me. I knew you'd come." Children, Jesus is here on our altar. Jesus wants to keep close to you, and He wants you to keep close to Him. Jesus wants you to visit Him often. He wants you to come to Mass. He wants you to receive Him in Holy Communion. Remember, Jesus is your friend. Don't neglect Him. If you go to Jesus often, children, Jesus will come to you when you will need Him most. Like Eddie in our story, someday you, too, will die. Before you die, you'll be sick and you'll suffer. But Jesus will be right there to help you. Yes, Jesus will come to you in your suffering. Jesus will stretch out His arms to help you, and there will be a smile on His face. And, as you look up into the smiling face of Christ, I know what you'll say to Him. "Jesus, you didn't disappoint me. I knew you'd come." End of chapter 21.